Hello, church family. Hey, it's Wednesday afternoon again. I've been having fun just sharing with you on Wednesday afternoons from heart to heart things that have been important to me in my lifetime. And again, I'll give you a warning like I have every time that what I'm about to share is not a sermon. And what I'm about to share may not be theological at all. It's just something helpful that has stuck with me and been important to me over my lifetime. You can agree, you can disagree. I may not be right, I might be. If what I'm saying is helpful to you, then that's all I want. Okay, the story I want to share today is the incident happened way back in my college years. So I was in my early 20s when this happened, going down to Greenville University. I don't remember what class this happened in, and I don't remember who the professor was. I only remember that one day, as I was taking notes, listening to my professor, I heard my professor say something like this: mature thought is heuristic. And I thought, that's important. And so I'll write this down, and I'm gonna jump on this and claim it and hang on to it. And I knew what mature thought was, and I didn't want to be immature. I didn't really know what heuristic meant. To be honest with you, years, decades have come and gone, and I still don't really know what heuristic means. Heuristic has so many different little nuances and definitions that I'm still not sure I get it right all the time. But here's what I do know about heuristic thought, and I'll share what my professor shared with me on with you. If it's helpful, good. If it's not, that's okay. It didn't take, you didn't waste that much time listening. There are many things in life that we don't know for sure. We don't know if is life on other planets. We don't know what the economy will be like in 2 or 3 years. There are things that we think we know that even though we will give our lives to them, we can't prove them like in a court of law or prove them, mathematically. Does God exist? That's not a subject that you can put under a microscope and have a definitive answer to. And yet, that's probably the most important quest of my life, that answer. So, heuristic thought is, those of you that have taken philosophy, it's inductive thinking. Those of you that have studied the scientific method, it might be the scientific type thinking, but heuristic thought says this: I will acknowledge that I don't know everything and that I don't have all the answers. Now, for some people, that just shakes them up. If they don't know the answers to something, they're set adrift. For other people, they know the answers to everything. I remember one time I was a guest speaker in a church. It was not a church of my denomination, and I'd been asked to come in. And during the time I was a guest speaker, someone in the church, they asked me some questions, and one question was a theological question that I really didn't know the answer to. And so I just, up front in the pulpit, I just said, I don't know the answer to that. And after it was over, some guy came and he shook my hand and he said, "You're the first pastor I've ever met that admitted he didn't know something." Well, you and I, neither one, know the answers to everything there is to need to know. And heuristic thought acknowledges that there are some things we don't have figured out. Now, the second thing heuristic thinking does is it rolls up its sleeves and it gets to work and it researches, it studies, it ponders, it works on those subjects that we don't have the answer to. I mean, some people are reading a book, and if it's a fact they think, then they have it nailed down. But they're just getting their message from somebody else, their ideas from somebody else. Heuristic thought takes the time to research, to investigate, to try to figure things out. It's a hands-on approach. And the third thing about heuristic thought is that it usually becomes pretty certain about what it believes because it's done the time and taken the effort to figure it out But if some data comes in that is new and outside the box and reliable, and it calls into question some of their thoughts, they're willing to embrace that and willing to change. Now, see, that's why heuristic thought is considered, or was by my old professor decades ago, to be mature thought. Because mature thinkers, they recognize that they don't know everything, but that doesn't mess them up. They work hard to understand life, and they do the hard work. They don't just take some news broadcast that they saw. And although they may be very certain because they have done the work to figure it out, and although it probably isn't that many times that they are embraced with new information, if new information comes along, they're willing to admit they don't know and to incorporate that and see how that works with their ideas. Now, sometimes that means they'll go for a period of time and they just sort of don't have everything figured out about something. That's okay. Mature thinkers probably have a lot of questions, maybe a lot more questions than they do have answers. It doesn't rock their faith. It doesn't stop them from being who they are. On the other hand, we can mention what is immature thought. Well, if mature thought is heuristic, immature thought is Facebook? Did I say that? You know what I'm saying. If you're going to be a leader, and you are a leader, every Wednesday night I've been talking about leadership and what makes good leaders. If you're going to be a good leader, you need to take the time to understand what you're talking about, still acknowledge what you don't know, and be willing to grow and change and mature as you go. I mentioned last week about some Christians just get stuck in grade school faith and never grow on. I remember one of my professors in school had this professor. Now, he was an older professor when I had him. He was nearly retirement age. And when he had been young, so we were talking decades before, there was a professor that just really impressed him. He admired this man. And he grew up and he moved away from that college. And years later, as an older gentleman, he came back and was able to meet and talk with his old professor. And I remember that the meeting was so disappointing, so disheartening. My professor came up in front of our class one day and just sort of poured out the sorrow of that meeting. And why? Because as my professor had grown over the decades, he went back and his old mentor had not grown. He was still in the same subjects that he was 30, 40, 50 years before. You and I need to grow. You and I need to be honest about what we don't know. You and I need to invest in the hard work of learning about those things that are important to us. And we need to be able to stretch and grow as we learn more through the years. That makes a good leader. That makes a mature person. And as you are raising your children, as you are teaching in the church, going through life with your fingers in your ears, going through your life with just a cardboard 10-cent. I always say I don't like 10-cent answers to $10 questions. A cartoonish type of belief in the world around you. That doesn't make good leaders. So challenge yourself. Grow. Be heuristic. Recognize that we'll never have all the answers and we'll always be a work in progress. And don't feel badly about yourself if somebody else seems to have everything nailed down and you don't. You might not be behind them.